Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is Between the Headlines with Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Between the Headlines, a brand new show, we are going to be looking at three important issues. Number one, the new dual citizenship law that has been passed. Two, the new LACC Act that has been passed, or the bill that has been passed by the National Legislature. That is the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission Act. That's a new act that has been passed, and we're going to look into it. Last and definitely not the least, student Christopher Walter Susuli Sively of the Student Unification Party has been brutalized by people believed to be members of COPCDC. You can see Brother Susuli and others in the picture. It's so disgusting. We're going to look at that. Joining me to take a look at these issues, I have Councillor Frederick Jewer. Councillor, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I'm happy to be here. Always available to contribute when I can.
Thank you. Councillor Jewer has been discussing all legal issues. Anytime Focus on Liberia want to talk about legal stuff, we call on Councillor Frederick Jewer. So we are not afraid to call him our legal analyst. Councillor, welcome to the show.
Thank you again.
I want to also welcome FOL Chief Political Analyst, Mr. Wilmot Weti Cooney. Mr. Cooney is a proponent of the one-round theory. That is the CDC George Weah one-round theory. He's here. He's our Chief Political Analyst, and he's also a very strong member of the CDC. Mr. Cooney, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm actually honored to share the platform with Councillor Jewer, whose analysis of legal issues that I respect very much. So I hope by the end of this show, there will be more enlightenment and he will bring some insight into the issues.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cooney. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. The first issue we want to start with here tonight and is the way student activist Christopher Walter Susuli Sively was brutalized by people who believed to belong to COPCDC or CDC COP. That's a faction in the CDC political party. I'm going to play for you a video where there was a demonstration. Students of the Student Unification Party were demonstrating or protesting against government. They have their demands. And then there were some counter-protesters, and it turned ugly. Take a listen.
To the rescue of this young man who has been manhandled by his colleagues from the University of Liberia, a group and here we are. We still have a police officer, and you can see the policeman there smiling. This officer is smiling there. He should be calling for a backup, but I see him smiling. And at this point, I don't know what he's going to do. He, after being treated, this is the group. They are calling themselves member of SU, but earlier on we saw the banner is the independent.
According to the report, the students of the University of Liberia, or SUP, that's the Student Unification Party, they were supposed to meet or gather at the University of Liberia and begin to gather from there to protest. Another counter group went and barricaded the place and stopped them. So students of SUP went directly at the American embassy to present their petition. There they were engaged by students or other students or people belonging to a branch of the CDC called COPCDC. There, a stone throwing began, and they were able to seize a member of the Student Unification Party by the name Christopher Walter Civili. He was taken to a place where he was further brutalized. I want to play that video again for you to see. It's very graphic. He was stripped naked to his, and just watch it.
They just got one of the members.
Right. Let me stop it where they kind of took his clothes off him. Mr. Kune, you are a student activist yourself. What's your reaction looking at the video?
Well, my reaction, it is very, very shocking. It is sad. And I want to state in the strongest possible term that I condemn that action. I believe nobody, no human being in our country or anywhere else, no amount of political disagreement will make another human being subject his fellow human being to the treatment that is being displayed on the video. This is all part of the militancy of political groups in our country. If you can recall, I think during one convention of the ANC, when their own youth attacked other youth of the ANC, I spoke against the militancy of political groups. And I think it is important for all political leaders in the country, whether it is the ruling CDC or all other political groups, to really, really come down hard on this kind of scenario. It cannot be encouraged. It cannot be supported. It is not part of our democracy, especially coming from the University of Liberia. The University of Liberia should be the place where intellectualism should flow, not violence. Yeah, you are correct. I mean, I was part of the activism at the university, but it was more intellectual. It was more intellectual. So I support the government call for an investigation, and anyone that is responsible for this level of brutality, I think should bear the full weight of the law. It should be condemned. It's not something that any decent human being should support in any form. There can be no equivalency on this matter.
Councillor Joey.
Dennis, I'm not surprised. Liberia under Mr. Weah has real problem. Violence, criminal behavior, attack on Liberian citizen by Liberian citizen, political violence, mysterious deaths, disappearances, torture, and you name it, appears to have become the order of the day under Mr. Weah. And because the Minister of Justice, I don't know whether he told not to act or he's afraid to act, no investigation has gone on for these kind of behavior that go on. The people who are involved in these criminal activity are known, are identifiable. You wonder whether the county attorney of Mossoraro County is working, whether the Minister of Justice is working, or everyone is waiting for the president to speak before they can act. And believe me, this activity that you're showing today, nothing will come from out of it, because the government of Liberia will not investigate, they will not indict people, will not prosecute them, will not set example. So people who attack others, it become a normal situation. And you either go to hospital on your own, get your own security. You saw a policeman walking by and smiling, This is a policeman paid by taxpayer. Because President Weah had not put a foot down on these types of violence, they will continue. The one that happened in Cape Town County with the right after the election of Simeon Taylor, nothing happened. The one that happened around the Barnesville, New Jersey area, where Unity Party and the CDC people clash, led by Koji, nothing happened. So attacking people, attacking those who were planning to protest is not anything new. What does Mr. Weah say? He doesn't say a thing. He sits down, said nothing. What does the Minister of Justice, Frank Musa Dean, my very good friend, would do? Nothing. Look at the deaths that are occurring in the country. Nothing. So people think that is reality. You go to Liberia, if you don't protect yourself, you will get killed. Why these days, in such a time, why would any university student be adopted by other group of people, carried to a place naked and treated as if they are in the war? Because Mr. Weah does not say anything. Because the Minister of Justice is as weak as ever. Because the police director had no semblance of being able to kill, to protect people. So it's not strange. It will repeat itself. Because I understand Koji was involved in this one. His boys were involved. Nothing happened to Koji. Nothing happened to the people who attacked him.
Yeah, let's show more pictures of what happened there. You can see there's a student there believed to be tied in a place there.
Yep.
You see when Christopher Waters Sisuli was being mobbed by those hooligans.
Yes.
And you see someone else being treated here. As you can see close there, these are all young people. Mr. Cooney, what is the reflection on the government that's on the ground?
Well, all of these things don't reflect well. The militarization of our politics don't reflect well. As I always said, the government bears ultimate responsibility. The government is the protector of the citizenry. And so we can easily point to the government, but there are other larger issues that we need to consider here that also contribute to these things. Then it is very easy for us to point to our rights, and everyone agree that there are rights. But we as a society, we've not taken steps to even educate those who want to exercise their right. People believe that the exercise of their right, the way the exercise of their right should be at the expense of other people's right. And you know, in an orderly society, it is not how it is done. I've seen demonstrations that occur at my office, but my office is open. I go to work. The people are protesting. They have the right to make their voice heard. We've developed a culture in our country that because the rights are there, they can be exercised anytime, any place, no guardians, nothing. Now, I'm speaking as a community activist. All of the protests that I have participated in, either in Washington, D.C. or elsewhere, there is always been a requirement that you obtain a permit to do your protest. There is a very good reason for that. If you request a permit for a protest, and if there is a contrary protest, first of all, authorities will be aware. They can develop a protocol for separation of the rival parties. They can do a lot of things to safeguard the very protesters. But in our country, this is a requirement that is demonized, that is mocked. Nobody, in fact, there are people who say, the counselor is here, he will help me with the law. But I think there are standing law that for you to protest in a public space, you need to request a permit so that you, the protester, can be protected, so that there can be some level of orderliness. The fact that you want to protest certain things shouldn't prevent other people from going to work, shouldn't prevent students from going to school. So all of these things are the lack of education that has unfortunately become a part of of our political process, and then the militarization of the political process has exacerbated some of these things. And everybody has the right to protest. Protest is the engine for positive change in our country. Protest is the forum through which the electorate can stay engaged beyond election. So protest is good. The right is good. But can we not have it in an orderly fashion so that brutality and other things that are continuously part of our protest can be minimized, can be mitigated?
Wow. And in this instance now, what will you expect from the government, the police, the justice ministry? What do we, it probably has been more than 24 hours, and besides the normal platitudes, we've not seen any actions taking place to effect arrest.
Well, I mean, the Justice Ministry has already issued a directive. I pray that what Councillor Joe said doesn't come true. I hope that this investigation will produce result. Because if this investigation does not produce result, then what will end up happening would be the institutionalization of this kind of behavior. Right. People need to be held accountable. We have video evidence. We have all kinds of evidence that the police can review and be able to hold people that were involved in that violence, hold them accountable no matter what side they belong, whether it is CDC-COP side, whether it is other people's side. But I would be really disappointed if this investigation is not conducted and if people are not being held accountable for this behavior. You see, because it will spell a lot of danger. We are moving to the larger political time. The larger political season is ahead. All of these things are symptoms, are problems, and we have to demonstrate the capacity of the nation, the capacity of law enforcement to deal with these kind of issues, because this may not be the last. This may not be the last.
Yeah. And this may spell also vigilante justice, because as I watch social media, there are people threatening also to go and protest if nothing is done to bring those people to justice.
Exactly. The cycle goes around. And just quickly before you go in, not only protest, can you imagine the fear that you have in Liberia if you were to hit a pimping driver in Liberia? The fear. So the proliferation of vigilante justice in our country is something that needs to be curbed, because it can affect the entire society. It can affect anybody. For me, I don't see it in partisan lenses.
Yeah. Councillor, I saw a statement put out by the Unity Party condemning such act and calling for a swift investigation. I have watched other social media platform where people are in the mood of mobilizing so as to what I call take revenge. Where is this leading us?
You know, as I said, if the social contract that the government has with the people of Liberia, such contract cannot be respected by the government, if the police that is paid by taxpayer money can stand by and watch when criminal activity occurred, instead of neutral investigation going on, there are cover-ups. Take Prince Copper situation. Up to today's date, somebody who called himself a pathologist said he conducted investigation and found out that she died from TB.
Tuberculosis. Yeah.
And nobody were arrested from the 11 people property at Eldorado Junction there. No of them were ever investigated to say what happened to Prince Copper. So violence, the youth in Liberia, whether you belong to CDC, whether you belong to any of the opposition political party, there's a need for people to understand that there exists law and order in the country.
But Councillor, these things are done by youth, young people. I mean, I have not witnessed before where, Tell me if I'm wrong because of the age difference here. But where you see other students or other young people attacking other people in the name of politics, as far back as I can remember, this has never happened. What's going on now?
Is because violence is allowed to exist and persist without the perpetrators arrested, no matter who you are, without the being prosecuted, without an example being set as to who goes out. Why are political parties having a youth group that call themselves brigade this, brigade that? The chief of staff one time spoke about it. Why are people dressing like military people in political party? Some of them will wear military uniforms. Some of them will pretend that they are so much a military person, so much so that nothing will happen. It's because the government is weak. It's because the government does not. How can the city mayor being caught on many occasions in violent activity and nothing happened? Why? Because that's why you find every youth in the other political party think that the way to resolve the problem is to attack other. Let's say Mr. Cooney said that in order to protest, to demonstrate, you must get a permit from the Ministry of Justice. All the law says is you must notify the Ministry of Justice. But even if you did not get a permit, it doesn't make sense for government to mobilize its own group to go and counter protest, not just protest, but attack the other people. Why are the young people being fooled? And I'm saying being fooled because people who making money in government are using them. People who want to do political activity in the country will use them. Why don't you pay attention to your education, become educated, and one day become a representative or a minister? Who told you those people who did the fighting on the street or attacked the university students are people who are going to be deputy ministers and whatnot? They will not. They will go back to West Point and sleep in the slum. They will go back to Doe community and have no food to eat. They will go back to red light and live in between those tanks. They become the social fabric of the country that have been so much used.
Yeah.
If you pay attention to your education, that will not happen.
This came at a time that the president has just released his new single, the Rabbi Meditation. We played that at the beginning. You want to listen to it again?
Yeah, me know. This is my meditation. God, Rastafari. My imperfection. Ooh yeah. Ooh yeah. We are brothers. We are brothers.
Somebody told me, said the president has released more songs than he has addressed the nation. Mr. Cooney, is this, I want to be very respectful here, but is this president really taking the job seriously with these releases every now and then?
Dennis, the Liberian people will judge the president by his action. I really don't want to steer the discussion in that direction because the question he asks is completely political. I wish people who are listening to some of, even if the president music, you listen to the music is talking about brotherhood. I hope people listening, if that's the president music, if we want to link these things to the president music, I mean, one would hope that you will listen to the president music and live according to the rhetorics that is in the music. The music is talking about brotherhood. The act we saw is completely different from anything that close to brotherhood.
Right. My question is the opportunity cost. What the president is leaving has a priority to be making music. And we are seeing how the society, how we are proceeding now. So that's why I brought about this, that these things are happening when the president is having, a musical festival.
There is an exaggeration. Your question presupposes that, I mean, the president is an employee, just like any other person. Yes, he has an enormous responsibility to administer the affairs of the state, but the president does have respite. And I think whatever the president does, I mean, during his hour time, I mean, is an exaggeration to say he's having a musical jamboree. We all see the activities of this president. You see the renovation of the Samuel Kayando Sport Complex. We're seeing the construction of roads in the country. We're seeing the construction of hospitals in the country. We're seeing the renovation of the executive mansion. We're seeing the construction of markets. So to say that the president is just having musical jamboree, is not working, well, that's a decision the Liberian people would make. And I think that is not, I don't think it is even close to what we're talking here. What we're saying here is that no matter what happened, this is a criminal behavior. Those who applaud the government decision to immediately launch an investigation, my hope is that those who are culpable will be brought to justice. And my other hope is that political leaders, this issue of militant brigade and the militarization of our politics is something that, political leaders should pay attention to. Not just the brigades, but even the rhetorics that come from political leaders. All of these things, they form the basis for conflict, for violence in our country. If we have political leaders who cannot accept any other result in an election except the win, that's also a foundation for violence in our country. They only accept result when they win. If they don't accept the result is rigged. All of these things are things that contribute to political violence in our country. And it should be condemned by all of us, by every life.
Thank you. Councillor Joel, I think it was at one point that there was a lawyer who threatened to take the president to court because the president was making music. And since then, is there anything in the law that prohibits the president from, doing such things? And or is there a way to say, well, these things are happening, it looks like the president is not paying attention, is making music, so we can do X, Y, Z to arrest that behavior? Anything legal the president is doing wrong here?
No, there is no law that prevents the president from making music. But you would take, for example, how many West African leaders running around making music? How many? Right by us, Sierra Leone. The Sierra Leone president is not making music. Right by us, Nigeria. Buhari, President Buhari is now making music. It doesn't mean the president cannot use the time for rest to do something meaningful. It tells you that in actuality, the president is not attentive. If you are attentive and you have all of the responsibility that is rested on your shoulders, these ritualistic killings that are going on, the mysterious disappearances of people, the militant student getting on, whether you belong to CDC, no student should be getting on the street attacking other students. And police stand by and laugh. People who know of the situation, you cannot get a redress from the police station because everything is cooked up. If Mr. Weah spoke today and said this type of violence need to stop in this country, my Minister of Justice will proceed to arrest, investigate, and indict as well as prosecute. You will see it will stop. But because everybody knows that Weah will not speak, everybody knows that he will either prefer to use his free time to make music than to focus on the activity of the country. All of these things help investors to stay away. Why am I going to invest my money when I know somebody can just grab themselves, come to my office, and take away everything that we should take away, and including identifiable government officials? Why?
2 quick points.
What, Mr. Coney?
I said 2 quick points.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why, others will say the president should say something, but
but don't you think the president should speak in this matter?
I mean, the president speaking brings no harm, but what I'm saying, the justice.
No, but do you find it expedient? Do you find it a good thing?
I believe there are times the president should address issues that face the country. Yes.
But in this case, with the violence on Independence Day, is this something that the president should address?
I believe the Justice Ministry has adequately responded to the issue. I mean, the Justice Ministry has adequately responded to the issue. They are launching an investigation. The Justice Minister is the chief law enforcement officer in the country. Sometimes I don't like to give, all these powers, we say the president won't do this, the president. There are responsible people in government that are responsible to do certain things. The minister of
President still do make statements, Mr. Cooney.
the Minister of Justice is no small official in the Liberian government. The Minister of Justice has issued a public statement denouncing the act, launching an investigation. And then let me put on my other hat, because there is a lot of reference being made to that police officer. He's my professional brother. I mean, from the law enforcement point of view, that police officer, yes, the laughing may be off-putting, but that one police officer facing that crowd, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't have done anything. You see him, first he decided to, I think, try to intervene. He saw a lot of people and then he backed up a little bit. You see his hesitation. A single police officer facing that crowd could not do anything. Other people say, well, he's supposed to call for backup. Nobody know if he did. Maybe he did. A single police officer cannot confront that crowd. So, I mean, I just wanted to make that point, The police does deserve criticism, but sometimes some of the criticism got to really be objective. One police officer cannot.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Cooney, because you want to see that police.
I want to believe that police officer could also be fearing for his own life as well. So, I mean, maybe he called for backup. Maybe he did. Nobody knows what kind of logistics he was equipped, whether he had a radio, whether he had a phone. All of these things we don't know. But he wasn't in a position to confront that crowd from the law enforcement point of view.
Right. So looking at his body language and everything else, what do you think this law enforcement officer is doing here?
Looking at his body language, it could be a couple of things. He could have been acting friendly to evade the crowd. He could have been acting friendly to minimize, to reduce the escalation of the situation. He could have been doing a number of things. I don't know what he was doing, but you see him trying to tell the people to stop. You see him putting his hand in his weak way, trying to tell the people to stop. So I think we need to tell the story in its entirety. It's not like he was dancing and smiling to the violence. He's making an attempt to intervene, but he's inadequate. He alone can't do it.
Thank you. He alone can do it. That's and we see the radio in his hand, probably calling backup, but I see the victim being put on a motorbike, still being beaten, and I don't know if the police officer was able to get enough information that he can report, so it has to identify these hooligans. But that takes us to our next issue, which is the dual citizenship law. Mr. Cooney, from the EULA standpoint, you have been around and we have talked about this dual citizenship law. This is now law. It's being passed, right? And let me see if I can get few provisions here that I can put on the screen. Okay. So the big thing here is, first, before I come to that provision, there is an amendment to the annulment of section 22.1, 22.2, and 22.4 of the Aliens and Nationality Law regarding the loss of citizenship. It reads, Chapter 22, Section 22.1 of the Alien and Nationality Law relating to the action causing loss of citizenship and to the loss of citizenship solely from the performance of certain acts are hereby nullified, non pro tunc. And Councilor can tell us what that means. And the Liberian citizenship of all persons heretofore affected by those provisions of law is hereby restored, as though those provisions of law never existed. That's one. Two, and then it comes to what many call the restriction. A Liberian citizen who holds the citizenship of another country shall not be eligible for any elective position office while still a citizen of another country. Should such person desire to contest for elective position, that person must renounce the citizenship of another country at least 1 year prior. It also says a Liberian citizen who holds the citizenship of another country shall not be eligible for appointment for the public office of Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Minister of Defense, and Executive Governor of the Central Bank of Liberia. Mr. Cooney, you've been going around with your happy dance about this, right? How is the victory lap going? Because you fought for this for almost 15 years, and long last, it has passed.
Yeah, on this, I think the counselor and myself may trade different paths because he will be speaking legally, but I will be speaking as a community activist, as an advocate. The issue of dual citizenship came to the fore as a result of our civil war when many Liberians fled the country. Few prominent Liberians thought that this issue could easily be corrected, noticing the brain drain, the massive influx of Liberians into foreign parts. So they decided they embark on the effort quietly. You're talking about Vice President Warner, you're talking about the late Senator Manston, you're talking about Reverend Lloyd, and some other people. They thought that they could go, Cletus Watterson, they thought that they could easily, do this thing and restore citizenship right. That didn't happen. EULA raised the issue at its 2005 All-Liberian Conference, and it was part of the resolutions of the conference. Formally, we adopted in 2009, and our president, Mr. Keseley, went to Liberia, participated in the TRC, and it became one of the recommendations of the TRC.
Yeah, not to cut you short, Mr. Kuni, this is now law. I want you to react to that piece.
Yeah, sometimes to understand the law, sometimes you got to understand it from the advocacy perspective, where we came from.
Right. I mean, it's been almost 15 years now.
It's been almost 15 years.
I appreciate the hard work.
We met in 2012 and agreed to several approaches: executive action, legislative engagement, referendum, and judicial action. The most significant win we got from the judicial action was the action of Tish Jallow. Many people don't know that EULA raised the first very small amount of money for Tish Jallow to go to Liberia, to file that lawsuit. So we got the automatic loss of citizenship out of the way. The Supreme Court struck that down. What the Supreme Court didn't strike down was the reason for the loss of citizenship. The Supreme Court found those reasons that it was within the legislature purview to enact those reasons. So again, we went back and then we decided to engage the legislature. And Dennis, from our advocacy position, we never advocated for a dual citizenship bill with restriction.
Okay.
No organization in the diaspora advocated for that. The only restriction we were prepared to settle for was restriction on president and vice president. But notwithstanding, the legislative business, involve a lot of things. It involves a lot of processes. So we engaged the legislature, they passed this bill.
So you just take what they gave you. Let me go to Councillor.
No. Before you go to the councillor.
Yeah, well, Mr. Kunu, you are going to the history. I mean, I want your reaction to the passage. This is now law.
Yes, and what I'm saying, this is now law. I accept the law. I think it's a reasonable law, but there is still room for improvement. The diaspora accept the law, but we can still there is still room for improvement. It's not cast in stone, but I think we need to take this first victory and celebrate.
Right, and what improvement are you talking about?
Oh, I mean, you pointed out some provisions, but the other provision you didn't point out is that the amendment is by far superior than the law that existed. It eliminated the discrimination that a Liberian mother and Liberian father was facing. Liberian mother could not give citizenship to her child. This amendment made Liberian mother to give her citizenship to her child. Children naturalized could not maintain their citizenship if the naturalization of their parents were revoked. So there are a lot of improvement in this law.
Thank you. Councillor Jewa, let me come to you on the legal part, and I want to take a step back on section 20.1 of the Alien, 20.20A of the Alien and Nationality Law, and then Article 28. So 20A of the Alien and Nationality Law says anybody who is born in Liberia of Negro descent, that person is a citizen of Liberia. Then Article 28 of the Liberian Constitution says, define a Liberian citizen as someone born in Liberia with at least one parent, a citizen of Liberia. Meaning, if you are born of parents who are, even though they are of Negro descent, but they are not Liberians, the Constitution is saying you are not a Liberian. The Alien Nationality Law is saying, as long as you are born in Liberia to Negro descent, you are a Liberian. Is there a conflict between Article 28 and 20A of the Alien and Nationality Law? I want to start from there.
Well, there appeared to be a conflict. I think what the legislature did was to leave that conflict portion to, at certain time, to conduct a referendum to ensure that that part could be equalized with the statute that had just passed, the Alien Nationality Law. So again,
and here is what I'm referencing. This is 20.1. Is it a person who is a Negro or of Negro descent, born in Liberia and subject to the jurisdiction, therefore, that person is a citizen by birth. This is what the Nationality Law of 1973 says in 20.1A.
I'm saying that portion of the act runs contrary to what the Constitution is saying.
So the Constitution takes precedence.
Correct, but because the legislature, the House and the Senate, do not have the capacity on their own to change that provision of the Constitution, my thinking is that it could be possibly referred to a referendum where the Liberian people will act on it so that it can come into harmony with the Alien Nationality Law as amended. Prior to seeing the law, there were many issues raised as to the restrictions and other stuff. I think the law generally is good. Apart from the restriction, the elected and appointed positions and whatnot, I think the law addresses a lot of things that the Alien Nationality Law did not address. I have said that it depended upon how the restriction would be. We were going to challenge it before the Supreme Court because you don't have the constitutional right to give me to ensure that my Liberian citizenship is restored, and in the same vein, restrict me from elected positions and whatnot. But I also saw that there is a supportive clause that allow you, if you wanted to run to be president, to denounce your citizenship, other citizenship that you are holding on to at least 1 year before the election. And so that gave room for people who might want to run to be senators, to be representatives, and president of the Republic of Liberia, and so forth. But so that is the restricted portion of the law. It seems to be mildly stated. So the question is there a reason for challenging that part of the law if you were to say that Liberians who are Liberians, their rights should not be restricted? There could be, and there could be a ruling of the Supreme Court as to the violation and that part of the law running contrary to the Constitution. But what caught my attention, and I don't think the politicians are looking at it, is that the law requires that you can renounce your foreign citizenship if you wish to run for an elected position. Now, how many of our leaders are citizens in other countries? I'll tell you something. In, I think, 2017 or late 2016, we wanted to find out whether Councillor Jerome Kwikoya, then chairman of the National Election Commission, is a citizen of the United States of America. And we simply went to we wrote the Secretary of State office in New Jersey, where Councillor Kwikoya resided. And we're able to get all of the record to indicate that he's a U.S. citizen, including a naturalization certificate number and all of that. So I'm saying that the sitting president, as well as the quote-unquote opposition leaders who know themselves to be citizens from end up bearing citizenship somewhere, if you don't denounce, you don't follow this to denounce, it could be a trap to challenge you. Object to it before the Election Commission, and we'll go to the Supreme Court, and you will have a problem.
Yeah.
I don't know how people interpreting that. Yeah,
Councillor, let me point this out to you. The amendment, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say or Part 3, Chapter 22, Section 22.1, 22.2, and 22.4 says that those things that prevented you from, being citizen, the performance of those acts are nullified, and it should be like it never happened before. So if those are nullified, I'm now a Liberian citizen, right? So if I'm a Liberian citizen, those things that prevented me, like taking part in the elections of other country, the military, or taking the oath, if I'm now a Liberian citizen, isn't that the end of the story? Why go to another step to say, but you can do X, Y, Z? It's like you are taking away the rights of a citizen because you already say, I'm already a citizen.
So the legislature, they're wishing to pass a law that restore the citizenship of all Liberians. As Mr. Kuni said, a lot of us ran because of the war. A good number of Liberian people ran because of the war. But you come to Article 4.1, and you say that you cannot run for elected position, which is being senator, representative, president, and vice president. And you also cannot be Minister of Defense, Finance, and so forth, National Bank, governor of the National Bank, or one of the governors, vice governors of the National Bank. So you cannot. It's a contradiction in the law. You cannot restore the citizenship and create bars that prevent people from exercising the right as a citizen. The citizenship issue is a constitutional issue. You can't cure it by creating statutory bar. If this matter were to go to the Supreme Court, the court will strike down that part of the act that say that you can run to be president, you can run for elected office, as well as you can be appointed Minister of Finance, Minister of Defense, and the central bank governor. The Supreme Court strike that down because it runs contrary to the Constitution. You can't be saying that this act that prevented people who took up citizenship in other countries is now repealed as if it never existed. But then you go further and say that, you can be Minister of Defense. You can be Minister of Finance. You can be National Governor. Do rights, and you can't run for elected office unless you within 1 year renounce your other citizenship to come back. Who are you to say that? Some people said to me, the legislature have the right to make law. Yeah, that's true. But you don't make law that run contrary to the Constitution, because the Constitution guaranteeing the citizenship right. And if you acknowledge that in an act that just been passed, you can also prevent people who want to do that. I mean, that's not what matters much to me. What matters to me is that 2023, you will find politicians will be challenged. You will find that they will be objected to before the Election Commission to not become the standard bearer of maybe Unity Party, Liberty Party, the other party that know that they are citizens of other countries. It's just saying that you can be a Liberian citizen. You are a second-class citizen. That's what it's saying.
Thank you, Mr. Kuni. I know I don't want to still put on your advocacy hat, right? So what I'm saying here is you are saying your citizenship right has been restored. Why don't we stop there? Why we go to the but?
Well, again, let me put on my advocacy hat, because as an advocate, when you're advocating for issues, first of all, you need to understand the issues, and you need to understand the process through which the issue that you're advocating can be accomplished, and the goal that you set. Again, I said that the advocate of dual citizenship wanted no restriction. That's our original advocacy position. Our general strategy is that the entire alien nationality law is bad. And anything that remove an inch of it, we are happy. Anything that remove an inch of it until it totally disappear. So this is why we celebrated when we got the Supreme Court ruling that you cannot revoke somebody's citizenship automatically. We are celebrating again that we've made progress. We've removed the ground for loss of citizenship. Now, we come up with these restrictions. And then even if you check in, I mean, what happened in Liberia is not an anomaly. You know, if you check in a sub-region, you find the same response. There are restrictions, countries that most of the countries that adopt these laws in the sub-region, they also are having the same kind of discussions we are having. For example, if you look at the dual citizenship law of Ghana, if you look at their restrictions, you cannot serve on the Supreme Court, you cannot be a minister, you cannot be an ambassador, you can't even be a colonel in the Ghanaian army, you can't be immigration, you can't be anything. I mean, a host of other restrictions. Even Nigeria, that has dual citizenship inscribed in its constitution, there are a lot of court cases going on in Nigeria.
Right.
Some judges are coming out with different interpretation. Some tribunals are coming out with different interpretation. So this is why we feel good from the advocacy perspective.
Right.
If there is someone who is impacted by this law that will go to the Supreme Court like the way Jallo did, and the restriction on elected offices disappear, that's fine, more the merrier. But at the point where we are, we've encountered about several legislatures in the past 15 years. None of them have took action on this law. This is why we remain grateful to this particular legislature for at least taking a step. This is why we remain grateful to President George Weah for making it part of his platform. This is why we remain grateful to EULA, to the European Federation, to the Australians, all of these groups that come together for us to reach to where we are. Now we are where we are. If there are other steps that will take us to the final promised land, we're not in dispute. We're not on the other side of that.
So Mr. Kone, I know you have some legal counsel in the background. What did they say about what we're saying now? Like, hey, you can grant me something and say, oh, even though you are a citizen, but here are some of your limitations. If I'm already a citizen, we are all on equal footing. What did your legal counsel say about this?
Well, these are some of the observations we got. First of all, the legislative process, they describe it as a sausage making. This law is being passed by politicians who have their own constituencies. Let us not for once assume that all the constituencies in Liberia want dual citizenship. There are certain constituencies in Liberia that are vehemently opposed to dual citizenship. These are the constituencies that some of these lawmakers represent. And for them, they needed something to take back to their constituency to say, you know what? Even though we recognize dual citizenship for Liberians, but at least these are certain safety net safeguards we're putting in place that will be pleasing to their constituency. And so people need to understand it. This is not a military decree. It's not a military government that issue law, bam, you like it, you don't like it. Legislators are held accountable to their constituents.
Thank you.
So this is such as making. So I think it is appropriate to recognize this win. And if there is if we want to move forward again to peel this orange until we get to the real orange, that is a discussion to have. But to say that what Liberia did is unprecedented, it's not true. Nigerians, they're fighting. Sierra Leone, even the Sierra Leone law do not allow dual citizens Sierra Leone to be member of parliament. Bio is fighting to have a constitutional amendment. So the fight is all over the place. But if you compare all of those restrictions, the restrictions in the new alien nationality law is one of the least in the sub-region. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just telling you the facts.
Thank you.
I'm just telling you the fact.
Thank you. Councillor Jewa, do you see this going to the Supreme Court?
Well, no. First, let me state that those who work on the passage of this law did a huge amount of work. I saw some of the draft portion of this law when it started. There were a lot of restrictions. You could not practice law. You could not be on the Supreme Court. You could not be associate justice. You could not be chief justice. And the list was as long as you can think about it. I think first, Liberians in the diaspora and other places have something to return to Liberia on. Not many of them going to be Minister of Finance. Not many of them going to be Minister of Defense. Perhaps not many of them have interest in being even a member of the central bank, the governor. Two things can happen. The matter can be challenged before the Supreme Court. But mind you, this Supreme Court has not stood so clearly, as far as I'm concerned, as to dual citizenship issue. Take, for example, Jallo applied to be admitted as counselor at law. He was rejected. So attempting, you got to settle the court, the atmosphere and the pressure within the court to determine whether this is the court you wish to go before to challenge this constitutional provision that we think the statute runs contrary to. Or do you wish to elect like-minded people who basically will remove the restrictions as they are? If you can, I didn't see the clause. I saw the clause that says that if you want to go ahead and renounce your American, European, whatever citizenship, but I don't think if it is challenged, I think we'll create a problem. If you challenge it at the Supreme Court level, there will be a lot of people who will be at a loss. People who have tried to buy property and build homes in Liberia would perhaps, if the Supreme Court should strike the entire law, you pretty much don't have anything. Perhaps the advocacy could continue to elect senators and representatives that will be different from those who see the restriction as a means to put there. Because the question that comes about is that if Joel can be Minister of Defense and Joel can be on the Supreme Court as Associate Justice, are you not fearful? If I'm a U.S. citizen, if I'm Minister of Education, and I have to deal with the education of the children, are you also not fearful? But is this the atmosphere? Is this the court to go before? Having taken cue from what happened to Jallo, I would not advise to go to the Supreme Court. I would perhaps look at it on a political level to have more like-minded people in the House and the Senate to pass the version that the House had. Perhaps it can happen, but for now, the Supreme Court does not look like a favorable place to go.
Lucero, if you just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing some pressing issues in our country. They include the dual citizenship law, the brutalization of student activist Christopher Walter Sisuli Severely by thugs belonging to COPCDC. This is despicable, it's beyond reprehensible, and we condemn it in the strongest possible term. Tomorrow on Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be talking about Independence Day. We want to still talk about Independence Day. How independent is Liberia? Why was it independent? What is the goal? Or what does it mean? And what will be your own Independence Day message going forward? On Friday, we'll have the Literary Hour. Dr. Rotel Nije Pele will be guest of Professor K. Moses Nawe and scholar Jackie Sire. Please don't miss that. They're going to be discussing the book of Dr. Pele. You don't want to miss it. Sunday at 1, we're going to have a member of the Fulani community, Hassan Gazim Jallo. He's going to be here to talk about what he referred to as discrimination faced by members of his community. He has a story to tell, and you don't want to miss it. Also, on Sunday at 6 p.m., gospel artist Fatou Zion will be my guest to talk about her career and also upcoming musical concert. Today, we at Focus on Liberia want to wish our co-host of the Literary Hour, Dr. K. Moses Namwe, an author, a professor, a lawyer, and a humanist, a happy birthday. We say happy birthday, Prof, and wish you many, many more years to come. We're going to open the phone lines very shortly. In the meantime, we are having some comments coming on. Facebook users say Ivory Coast has the best dual citizenship law in the sub-region. I don't know if Mr. Kooning agrees. Ami Kamara said Weah is not fully Liberia himself and must and most of his ministers are U.S. citizens, so they are just being a bunch of hypocrites. And we are working to minimize or hold people from running in 2023. Trying to link the president to the new law. Tavina Cole says, where is the human side of President? We are talking about where is the empathy? We had a COVID czar in the US, but Biden briefed us daily and assured the nation that our safety was his highest priority. Eugene Lamin Fagon, the master of the microphone, he says, good afternoon, guys. Vavri Kromans, I'm highly disappointed in your analysis, Mr. Cooney. Ma Emma said the policeman never helped. If that boy was his child, what would he do? More comments here. Oliver Cruiser, university students supposed to protest without a permit. I don't think these people were not from the institution, or maybe they were paid to disrupt the Independence Day celebration, period. J. Larry Talu, I can remember 2011 when we had sedition about to protest. We got killed by Joseph Boakai and LA administration, and today people are protesting freely. Francis Wilson said the president is making music and dancing booga. Adolphus Hill said Mr. Jai, I think he meant Mr. Jai FOL is an ANC station.
Wow.
ANC meaning the Alternative National Congress. Rita said the soup guys were not talking anything about political parties. They were talking about things that affect the country at large. And there's a comment here. Chris Masale, we are only witnessing this under the Weah administration, this amount of hooliganism and gangsterism in our country. The only time we ever saw this kind of violence was during the Civil War, where there was total breakdown of laws. Edwin Dick said, why go protest during the country's birthday, as they so-called themselves patriots, is wrong as well. Say you should only protest when there is not Independence Day. All right, that leads us to our last point here, which is the new law that has been, or the new bill that has been passed on the LACC. Mr. Cooney, you want something?
Let me say something. Again, let me move from advocacy to law enforcement. Look, there is no question that there are some concerning things that are happening in Liberia when it comes to security challenges and when it comes to the issue of crime. But again, we need to look at that issue in a much more deeper sense. There are studies around that there is a deficit of about 4,000 police officers in our country. That in order for us to maintain a good level of security in the country needs to train about 4,000 police officers. It's not just the recruitment, it's the training, it's the logistics, it's everything that go with that. Now, we also need to be reminded that during Madam Salivi's administration, we had about 4,000 United Nations police officers plus, almost equal number of local police officers. So we had a total police force of about 7,000 to 8,000 plus 15,000 United Nations Army officers that were all contributing.
Mr. Cooney, let me interject.
I'm coming. You will interject. Yeah. I'm not saying this to make excuses.
Right. That's how you sound like, right?
We must also recognize the deficit that exists.
Right. And I want to throw in a Liberian proverb. It says, if you're not there when the person taking bath, look when the person is applying the lotion. Let's say we have a deficit of the police officer and we're not able to make the arrest then. What happened after? When all the videos, evidence is out there. So the issue here is not...
Dennis, I'm speaking to the general issue of insecurity in the country and the challenges that law enforcement face.
Yeah.
I'm not... This specific issue, I've already stipulated that there are videos around. The police should make an arrest. I'm just talking about the general issue of insecurity, the mob violence, the vigilante justice that are going on. Some of these things happen in the absence of law enforcement.
Right.
We don't have adequate law enforcement in our country.
We saw the budget. We saw the national budget where EPS, the money to EPS is 3 times what is given to the police. The money to NSA is almost 3 times what is given, what is allotted for the police. So I mean, is there any interest in law enforcement in the security of the country, or just the security of the
Everything you said
country?
does not negate the fact that the country has a 4,000 strong deficit in police.
Yeah, I'm talking about priority now, because
Okay,
if you
well,
are defunding the police, I mean, if you are giving so much little to the police, that means you don't even want to hire, because the money the allotment you make to the police, that's how we're going to hire more men.
Mr. John,
Yeah.
if Liberia has interest in training 4,000 more police to be able to add to the manpower we have, what is wrong with the budget? Have we seen the budget? Have we seen how much money that is going to the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs? Have we seen how much money that goes to the Minister of Finance? Is our priority upside down? Is Mr. We are saying that the police is not important because EPS is supposed to be the presidential police? There's no excuse to say we got a shortage of 4,000. Why are we not training them? Why don't we have enough money to be able to bring to bear the logistics that the police have? It's because the government decision is to keep it that way. It's because the police people you have right now is a clearly partisan police. So if you were to spend money, look at the budget and ensure that law and order becomes an issue, no country will survive without law and order. Because you cannot start a new business in a place where people can come in and take things from you. Do you know that stores are closing early in Monrovia because bunch of people can just go into people's stores and demand money and demand stuff? Let's agree, we have 4,000 police shortage here. Why are they not trained? Why do we have almost $23 million for the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs? How many people in there? What is it that they are doing for which they need that amount of money?
I think we need to ask some of these serious questions to the national legislature that appropriate the money.
Oh, Mr. Kuni, the national legislature is one of the worst group of people in Liberia. Do they look at the budget and say we're going to make sure that police get enough money for training? Not only the executive, we're not querying with the executive. No, the legislature are concerned with appropriating more than $3 to $4 million so that they can get $30,000 along the way. They don't think about the police.
All right. And talking about the police, the national security, NSA, 11 million in the budget. This is before the recast. Mm-hmm. The EPS is 10 million. The Liberia National Police is 5 million. Mm-hmm. And the Armed Forces is 16 million. That's the money. So we can see why we have one police guy smiling
and leaving. Finding a way to go.
Yeah.
Why would that young man alone be able to attack those people who have places that they can carry the university students and detain them there?
Presidential affairs, maybe, I don't know if Mr. Kone, you work around there. I don't know if they reached or even 20 persons. They have 20 million.
Yep.
20 million. Police, 5 million. So you know why we can't get
4,000 police.
4,000 additional men.
So we need to ask the legislature.
But do we have to ask the executive too why they appropriate it that way?
I mean, the priority of the country is not defined by what's the government is not defined by one person. It's defined by the executive, the legislature.
Yeah, but what role does the executive have to play? I don't want you to put yourself in a position of defending the executive and putting all the onus on the legislature.
I said we have to ask the executive and the legislature.
Okay.
Mr. Jam, Mr. Kune is correct. When the budget is sent to the legislature, they are under responsibility to scrutinize it. Let's say I'm Minister of State for Presidential Affairs and I submitted a $30,000 budget. Does it mean that I'm entitled to $30,000 and the legislature will pass that?
But because the opposition control the legislature, they don't let us for to blame the legislature at all. We are. I'm tired of hearing about we are.
The problem in Liberia is not just we are. The problem including the legislature that allow the budget to pass. If you would give the Minister of State that is less than 20 people $20 million and the police $5 million, didn't they see that?
They got a legislative budget office there, LBO.
Everybody concerned. I mean,
in this budget, the legislature got a raise
Oh, yeah.
50,000 each,
Oh, yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
that they can pass it. And we
So
know the recent.
let us not minimize their role in it simply because they are controlled by opposition.
No,
Mr.
but
Kuni, that's why you are suggesting, and let us not minimize the role of the president, of the all-powerful president, the imperial president.
look,
I disagree. The president is not imperial.
All
Mr.
right.
Ria,
Let's move to our next issue, which is the LACC. Councillor Jewe, I don't know how the LACC Act, I have not really been in depth with it prior to this time, but you can walk us through that. The new act has some changes that it made, and let me highlight some of those. The amended act empowered the LACC to investigate and prosecute acts of corruption, as well as strengthen the commission to prevent and combat corruption in Liberia. It empowers the LACC to investigate acts of corruption both in public and private sectors, and to prosecute those determined to be culpable of committing acts of corruption, meaning they give them prosecutorial power. Under the amendment, also, the number of members of commission has been increased from 5 to 7, and additional departments have been created. Those departments are administration, supervision, monitoring, investigation, prosecution, as well as education and prevention. And we have a commissioner or 2 assigned to each of those departments. Also, the process of appointment now for the commissioner will start with nomination by an ad hoc committee. That ad hoc committee will include representatives from the GACC, the National Bar Association, the Press Union, and so on and so forth. And the commission will be appointed for a term of office, but the term shall be staggered so that, to ensure that all of them don't, end at the same time. Or the LACC shall have all powers and authority in its operation, also provide for financial autonomy. It will prohibit, which they believe will prohibit interference in the affairs of the commission. The legislature is also recommending that the commission should not seize the assets or freeze the assets of those that they're being convicted, unless those are at flight risk. When I read this or knew something, Councillor, not being familiar with the old one, I thought it was good. But there's a kind of outcry, both from the current commissioner and other people. What is, just walk us through the two and what's happening here?
So the 2008 Act that created the LACC, one of the things that LACC commissioner complained of was that after their investigation, the writing of their reports, they would then submit their report to the Minister of Justice for the Minister of Justice to prosecute, or wait for 90 days if the Minister of Justice did not take up the analysis and the complaint they had to indict those who they claimed are culpable. Then the LACC could go ahead and on its own seek indictment and prosecute. The LACC, the old Act, also had a Department of Enforcement. That part is taken under the new law that was just passed. And so the LACC didn't have prosecutorial power at the time. Now the new law gave them prosecutorial power. But I will tell you as a lawyer what that law actually is. And how weak the law has become. The other complaint that people are raising, including the chairman of the LACC, current chairman, who I understand is hiding, is that the LACC will be, as it is, all the commissioners will be removed. Right. And then the committee that you just mentioned will be set up and people submit their names. And I heard the Minister of Finance saying that even Tiawan Gonglo can submit his name, Tiawan Gonglo can submit his name, and he could be picked to be a member of the LACC. That's a joke to me, though, because as it is, the constitutional authority to appoint people in government rest with the president of Liberia. You can have as as good as the committee is, and perhaps if Bishop Marco Pakala Francis was still alive, you have him to be chairman of the committee. It doesn't give the committee the authoritative constitutional authority to be able to finally say who can be on the committee. Now, Liberia, as we all know, is a very corrupt country. Very few people are involved in misuse of public funds, and nothing can happen to shut down to create a new LACC with people applying when there is a tenure of the current LACC based upon the 2008 law. It's a violation of the process and procedure of the law in Liberia. You don't make law to retroactively impact people. What the government would have done was basically maybe give an enforcement period for the term of the current commissioners on the LACC. They talk about prosecutorial power, but the LACC doesn't have the right to arrest anybody. It does not have police to arrest and bring anybody. It does not have the authority to subpoena and hold people in contempt for refusing to appear. The LACC, the ECC, the commission in Nigeria is by far stronger than the current commission that the government of Liberia has set up. Now, you will notice that it's interesting that this bill came directly from the executive branch of government. Yeah. I understand the president and other people are not favorable to what Councillor Martin has been doing. Some top government officials, in fact, I heard the Minister of State and the Minister of Finance saying that they will be dead before the LACC can be given such a power to freeze people's assets. Freezing your asset is not something that will just happen without the law. The LACC will have to go to criminal code C and apply for an authority to freeze assets. They were arguing that you can file a near ethnic republic to prevent somebody from leaving, but those are things that exist already. But it does not give the power, the prosecutorial power that the LACC need. In fact, the LACC has to still consult with the Ministry of Justice to be able to have arrests done in order to have subpoena to be issued. LACC we still have to deal with the Ministry of Justice. As it is, even though what you call the commissioners are increased from, I think, 5 to 7, and their reports will now, they have power to prosecute. What power you have to prosecute when you can't even arrest anybody? When you can't freeze people's assets. So when assets I went to Nigeria about 14 different times to practice before the ECOWAS code. When assets are frozen, I was there when I think was the president of the Senate. He was arrested and taken before the EFCC and was being prosecuted. They have power, the power of the EFCC in Nigeria. Any disagreement with the decision, you can move to the the appellate court in Nigeria. So it had power equal to the circuit court. I was serious about corruption. We'll be able to get sufficient prosecutorial power and ability for LACC to do its work. The current LACC chairman said that he was on the floor in Ganta for almost 2 hours, even though he was not well. People that he had written report and charge were sitting down and making fun while government ministers were asking him, and those were non-lawyers, asking him to explain the possibility of the law. How can Minister of Finance ask a lawyer to explain possibility of the law? You Minister of Justice? How much do you know about the law? How can the Minister of State be concerned about how the LACC is proceeding? Why don't you leave it with the Minister of Justice, who is a lawyer? And so, as it is sugarcoating the entire process as far as I'm concerned. Because if you will still have to go to the Ministry of Justice to effect arrest, when people who commit financial and economic crimes, you can only go after them when you think they are flight risk. Then what is it that you're doing? You can tell, you can say all the committee that you said. When the committee sent its report of the names or to the president, we has a constitutional right to say, I don't want Jewel, I don't want Gonglo, I don't want Bian Howard, I don't want this person, and strike it out. Who has to question the president when the Constitution provides that he appoints?
Thank you.
Really down there.
So the current head of the LACC, Councillor Edwin Clark Martin, said the new legislation is purposely intended to weaken the fight against corruption, which his administration has been very committed to. It also said that, hey, this thing started with the president, but what the president really submitted, that's not what you pass here. Mr. Cooney, I don't know how, Mr. Dewa, you want to,
let me come into that point, because again, this is where sometimes I say that making everything weird is kind of redundant, and a presented legislature has some impressionable children that they don't know what they're doing. The last statement you made, my understanding about this thing is that what the president submitted was simply a request to amend the Act for prosecutorial power for the LACC. And then here is the process that is going through our legislature, that is burning children here with different legs, you know. And instead of holding the legislators accountable, the legislature accountable, again, because we are carried away with it, imperial, anything happening in Liberia, the president got to be responsible for it. You see, I mean, if we're serious to fight corruption in our country, why would we want to make law that weaken the agency that is responsible to fight corruption instead of giving more power to that agency? You know, nobody supports corruption. Corruption is a way of development. Corruption deprives citizens of services. So this should be like the core of all Liberians. I don't understand the legislative logic in all of these things that are going on. The 7-member commission, we want a 5-member commission that will be effective. Give them the power to prosecute, give them the power to subpoena, give them arrest power, give them all of these powers so that people who are accused of corruption can have their fair day in court. And all of these things, again, is the working of the legislature. But there are times people want us to close our eye because of his current composition and only focus on the president because he's the president. This is not how democracy works. Dennis?
Mr. Cooney?
Yeah.
Just a 30 minutes.
Before you come in with your question, I just wanted to ask Councillor Jiwe a question, a legal question. Councillor, according to our system of government, does the president has a power for line item veto, or he have to veto the entire legislature?
That's a good question. I thought you were going to ask a question.
You by your mind is made up against me.
Here is a question I thought you were going to ask. I got to be honest. Does the president is the president responsible for the action of the legislature? I thought that was
No. Does the president
go ahead. That's a good question.
You know, the president can look at certain portion of the act or any act that is passed and decide to strike out those portions that he think are constitutionally not in the interest of the Liberian people. But one thing I want us to constitutionally understand is that the legislature, in as much as they will make laws that may appear bad as bad laws, their laws, whatsoever legislation that they pass in the House and the Senate, does not become law until it's signed by the president. And I'm hoping that the president has lawyers in the mansion assisting him to be able to look at some of the flaw of the current LACC Act. Plus, if I heard the chairman of the LACC saying that he might take the matter to the Supreme Court, because as long as tenure exists, the government has no authority to change that until the tenure process comes to bear. It seems like our legislatures are so proactive negatively to the point that they would want to pass laws that we, bring the country to disrepute, make the country to look like a laughing stone. But the question will be when the law gets before the president. In fact, nothing is law in Liberia unless it is signed by the president. So the ball is in president. We are called to determine whether or not he wants to sign the bill as it is and remove the current, the current commissioners and the Minister of Finance said there was an issue of what? Reset. So they call it restatement of the law, meaning that the restatement of the law means you can remove all of the people who are there for 5 years, who maybe have only spent 1 or 2 years, and then bring group of people. So it will not stop. The problem with that is that if the election commission should conduct an election that the executive does not like, guess what will happen? Even though the election commission the commissioners should have tenure, the president can go to the legislature and maybe say, I want to amend the national election laws to be able to ensure that all election challenges are not done before the election commission, or for only 2 days before the election commission. And the legislature will change the entire thing and remove all the commissioners, remove all of the election commissioners. So where are we going to stop? If we're going to allow that, you doing reset for the LACC, will you do reset for the General Auditing Commission? Are we going to do reset for the National Election Commission? Where would the reset start? Where will it stop? And what gets to me is that you will hear non-lawyer argue what the law is supposed to be and how good is the law when you don't know the interpretation and the application of the law. How will you do that when if the government is sued and say the tenure did not expire? Are you going to defend it? How will you defend it when there is a case, there's a standing case, the Lotto case? The Supreme Court said that the tenure has to expire before you can put new group of people in, or you can have a law that will impact it.
So Councilor, what would be the rationale behind saying do not freeze the asset? What would be that? Yeah.
The people are afraid that they are acquiring property illegally. I said I was in Nigeria about 14 different times.
I mean, this is what any law would say, right?
I was in Nigeria where the now late former President Obasanjo has a compound with almost 100 houses in there. Surprisingly, the compound is completely empty because the owner of that compound had gotten their property seized because they could not establish how they got sufficient money to build those types of compound in Abuja. And so the LACC is a powerful group of people in Nigeria. You can appeal for the decision to the Nigerian Appellate Court. But we are afraid of doing that because we are building houses illegally. We are acquiring wealth illegally. We are afraid that those things that we acquire and some of the things that are being acquired is in your face corruption.
Yeah.
So people are afraid that you
Mr. Kuni, earlier you said when we're talking about the dual citizenship law, you adequately, I don't want to say defended, but you spoke in favor of the legislature that, hey, legislating is like sausage making. It's a nasty process. And these legislators represent constituencies who want different things. So in order to satisfy their constituencies, they will do X, Y, Z, like they did in the case of the dual citizenship restrictions. Does the same thing fit when it comes to the LACC? Now you are saying, hey, these legislators are a bunch of opposition and they don't want to, and we have to hold them accountable. Are you, speaking the same language here, or at
I'm
both?
speaking the same language. In every situation, legislators should be held accountable. I want to believe whatever.
You are now holding them accountable in the dual citizenship bill.
No, I did. I said they were responding to their constituencies. So again,
Is it the same thing they are doing in this LACC case?
Who knows? Maybe, but I don't know. Constituencies need to come up. The reason why I said
you knew the dual citizenship constituency.
Listen, the dual citizenship case, I was in Liberia. It went before the legislature. The legislature says, Senator, go consult your constituency and come back. So that's the process. That's the process they took. Right. So I don't know whether it is what their constituencies say, but the important point is, Dennis, our democracy will be made better when citizens get engaged.
Yes.
We need to know these things. And we need to stop surrendering to whatever mystical power that we think a president has. When I blame the legislature, is not to excuse the executive, but I believe sincerely that our democracy will work if we have a functioning legislature that will do things in the interest of the people, whether that concession agreement, whether that international treaty, all of these things. And I no longer accept the argument that we don't have educated people in our legislature. They are a bunch of excellently qualified, competent, educated people in the legislature. And we should stop excusing them. We should stop excusing them. The same way we're holding the president accountable, let's hold them accountable. But again, before I close, let me ask my last legal question. Councillor Jawa, I understand.
Yeah. Mr. Kone, before you ask the question, let me announce the number here. We want people to call in, and as Jay Nabushla will say, talk their own. So please call, and the number is 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403. We have discussed 3 issues here. Please call and make your contribution. Back to you, Mr. Kone. You are doing the right thing. Let's engage the councillor. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my understanding is that, the way our system works again, the legislature could make a law. And of course, it is true, it can only become law when the president signs. But somewhere I heard that even if the president doesn't sign, after 7 days, it becomes law by default. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's correct. It's after 10 days.
Oh, after 10 days.
Yeah. So,
Mr. Kone, you could have asked me that question.
If the law should lie down the desk of the president and he doesn't act, and the statutory people comes and run, it automatically becomes law. He doesn't need to sign it any longer. So then he doesn't go through the process where he vetoes it and then go back to the legislature, and 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate can override veto. But if he just allow it to sit there, then it becomes law. But I wanted to add, is the problem in Liberia not just we are problem alone. If we have, there are few people in the legislature that the other politicians are looking up to help them write these laws. One of them is Councillor Vani Shema. If you have practiced law in Liberia for about 10, 15 years, you must understand that certain law, when they are passed, when they become challenged before the Supreme Court, there can be crisis. Legal crisis. I don't mean people get onto the street. Legal crisis, it can be set aside. Take, for example, the recent 8.52 or 8.25 of the CPP framework document. The Supreme Court struck it down. So you got to be mindful. In fact, we as lawyers have a higher responsibility not to be cunning, but to allow people to understand that, look, if I follow your thought, even though it sounds very brilliant, but this is what the court will say at the end of the day. But if you just write what the politician will want, and it goes to the president, perhaps the president may not veto it, or he may not strike out the line item in there, or he may sign because people in the, like Africa is a place that you can lobby. People in there will also be able to pass run around for the president to sign. The current LACC law, if you follow the fact, you'll find that LACC indicted some people. In fact, did its report and named certain group of people, including the Minister of Agriculture, including the guy who is at the census, the bureau of the where census should be conducted in Liberia. There were a group of people that were named. That report is still on the desk of the Minister of Justice. And then in the process, the legislature, let's say the president only requested prosecutorial power. What made them to go as far as saying we'll reset? And is the president light enough to know that the reset is a violation of the law, for which the Supreme Court could set aside? So then he struck that one out. So everybody, and considering, when you listen to the chairman, what he went through in Ganta, I believe this law will be signed. I believe that a quote-unquote committee will be set up. I believe people think that they have their way by having some kind of committee sitting outside of the Constitution to send names to the president, and the president who told the president on obligation to take the name from them. No obligation at all, because the law
Thank
doesn't
you.
tie him to that.
Thank you. And I don't know if that law is signed already. I believe it's not yet, but we'll keep watching. We have some callers already available here. Let me bring them on. The first one here is Elvis Morris. Elvis, you're live.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. John. Thank you for the show.
Thank you.
I want to make a couple of points real quick before I get off the line. Firstly, with the protests, I respect Mr. Coney, and I really respect his analysis. But I'm going to say some things and then I like it. But President Weah, I'm not sure if he's really a cool man, because he's weak-minded. He's very, very much weak-minded. He's feeble-minded. The man was strong as a striker. He had the physical strength, but mentally he's so weak. He can't put a task force together to fight the crime in the country. He just sits there and he does nothing. I'm even ashamed that I was supporting him in the beginning of his presidency. He's weak, very, very weak. He don't have the spirit of Joe in him. He don't have that strong mentality, and it's a sad thing to see. It really is a very, very sad thing to see. But on the issue of the dual citizenship bill, like I stated on this platform before, I agree with it. A lot of Liberians come into this country and they're so anxious to get American citizenship. Once they're eligible, they're running to go sign to immigration, to naturalize, to become American citizens. And then they won't go back in Liberia. They want to have the same right as all the Liberians, the people in Liberia. Again, why the Liberian people then go to the American government and say they won't change the law so that American citizenship, people can allow us to be president and vice president when we take their citizenship? Why we don't go advocate for it? If you ask a lot of Liberians, if you get in the choice to give up their Liberian citizenship or their American citizenship, they will probably give up their Liberian citizenship. They value their American citizenship more. So they shouldn't go by the Liberian and try to act as if to say the love for the country so much. They want to be Liberian so much that they want all their rights to be restored, but they quit to take American citizenship. So all that noise about they shouldn't have any restriction. Who says so? You have restriction in America. Why you can go lobby the American government not to have restriction as a naturalized citizen in America? They might be hypocrites. I don't want to say I got more to say, but I'll get off the line. I have other people coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvis. Let's get Mr. Aliyu Kamara. Mr. Aliyu, you're live.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me. Sometimes I wonder why Councilor Jewell always indirectly try to help ANC. I caught on his statement initially when he said that oppositions must watch out that this new law, the incumbent can use it against someone in 2023. And I think I kind of know who that someone might be, But look,
he said it. He said it. He said the president. He named the president as one.
Anyway, listen, my uncle Connie is just completely off track this evening again. I think you just lost it tonight.
Aliyu, you Mandingo man, Connie crew man. How is he your uncle?
My cousin.
But we're still African, right?
Oh yeah, this man.
Connie is older than most of my uncles. So
okay, yeah. Because sometimes he connect when he wants something from the Mandingo community. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
That's the best way, right?
So when he comes up and say, the same, CDC thing, there's always somebody that's responsible for the CDC. Oh, they had this amount of UN troops, and in order for this to happen, you need 4,000 more troops and this and that. But listen, you didn't have 4,000 troops more when the Princess Cooper thing. You were able to send riot police to go and disperse them, even though they were walking on the sidewalk. They did not impede traffic. You did not have 2,000 or 4,000 more men when you brutally beat those people who were protesting at St. Moses because 3 gentlemen got missing mysteriously. You did not. There were some other women in the street protesting against sexual violence against them. When you attacked them, you did not have 4,000. When it came to an incident where a man is being brutalized, some of us who saw the war with their eyes, we saw a complete repetition of what happened. You did not have 4,000 men. to stop that. These are the kind of selected things that really makes us concerned. Mr. Connie, you got to help the younger generation to actually do better. When you guys stand with these things and say, "Oh, it happened last time. It was last time. And it was this time. And why now?" Then you guys are misleading the generation that's supposed to be taking over. Another thing again, he talked about, or he tried to shift the blame from George Weah to the House of Legislature. Mr. Connie, every serious government that ever made transition from bad, at least to good somehow, they had a vision bearer. The vision bearer of that government is the president. Let's take Macaulay, for example. Tanzania became what it became under Macaulay, not because the legislatures were not willing to be corrupt. It was because Macaulay put his foot down and was not taking anything that was in his vision. Thomas Sankara, he turned that country around up to today. Even the major highways you see in Burkina Faso today, Thomas Sankara built them in 4 years' time. A country that was entirely corrupt. It was not because he did not meet corrupt people in the government. It's because he had vision and he was willing to live up to those vision. The president, since he became president, almost every bill he ever sent to the House of Legislature passes. So the president is a supreme power all unto himself in Liberia. He does what he wants to do. If he sends a bill and says Nathaniel Maggio, even though Nathaniel Maggio graduated from the University of Liberia, had no prior work experience, when he was given $20 million budget to manage, a man who had never earned $40,000 for himself, the president had it. It happened. It worked out. When he decided he would make Jefferson Koji city mayor, Jefferson Koji would do whatever he wants, and nobody can stop Jefferson Koji. He did. Who stopped him? But they come to this citizenship thing and then get out of the way. When people say, Liberians will forego their citizenship or American citizenship in any time, of course.
30 seconds, Aliyu.
Yes, sir. I can use an American passport and fly to Belgium without asking anybody any question, and I get to Belgium and let me pass through the gate. Where can Liberian passport take me? So, of course, everybody is looking for opportunity. And when somebody say, "Oh, why can't you go to the United States government and try to?" Because you are a naturalized citizen. You're not even a birth citizen. We're talking about a country of birthright. The Article 28 of the Liberian Constitution is one of those constitutions that will give this legislation a difficult time if anybody is to go to the Supreme Court. But thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Aliyu. Mr. Coney, any response?
Yeah, I listened to my little brother, and I just some of the unfortunate thing when it comes to discussing national issues. We all stipulated on this conference, we condemn the act, we call on the government to do the investigation, we criticize the government. My mention of the 4,000 police officers was somewhat in support of what we will call a strategic security analysis for the country. I mean, we become so partisan that we don't even want to hear any information, any other information, except the information that supports our view. And those who criticize us are the ones that are really fond of this kind of behavior. I mean, the fact that this incident occurred doesn't negate the fact that police, the law enforcement is under strength in our country. Doesn't negate the fact that the level of security in terms of infrastructure and other things that existed previously don't exist in Liberia today. Can you compare the security environment that is created when you have 15,000 military personnel to, let's say, a military force of about 1,200 persons? We all have to be grateful to God that, there is still some level of peace in our country. So when you discuss these deficits, again, it's not to give excuse. But I'm saying while we criticize, let us also be aware that this is where our country is. This is where our country is. It doesn't take away people who want to criticize. I'm looking at it as a security professional. Do you know that mines and villages and towns even away from Monrovia, because everything we talk about Monrovia. Who has discussed the security situation in my county of Sino, where there is information that Malayans and Ghanaians and other people are taking over gold mines and other things in Sino? There is no law enforcement presence all over the country. So I'm talking about a strategic security analysis for the country. And it doesn't take away from the criticism of this Inhumane Act that we all watch, for which we are calling on the government, rightfully so, for which the government has already announced an investigation. We hope the investigation will lead to the perpetrators being caught and prosecuted.
Thank you. Hamilton Zilli said Councillor Sherman has lost his credibility as a lawyer whom people saw as a legal luminary in Liberia. Martin Brown, it is Councillor Vani Sherman with his legal mind that is manipulating the entire Senate. The councillor is already draining on U.S. insult. Martin also said the LACC Reset Act has already been signed. So that's something new. We'll see that. And Quinnan said the LACC chairman needs to save himself the trouble and not go before the WIA controlled Supreme Court, because as long as WIA wants it, they will ban the law. This is the only country that the Supreme Court. And I think he's calling you. You were on live, so why did you leave the call? Go ahead. You have a question or comment, your name and where you calling from.
Yeah, hi. I'm Sarah calling from Dallas.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I'm just calling to say something about this a video that we all seen from yesterday.
Okay.
People are saying they should investigate. There's nothing there to investigate. The video is clear. Everybody's faces are showing on it. The police were there. They came in late because they knew about it. I mean, you can be whoever and say whatever you want. But the only solution will see that there's nothing wrong. By the way, I'm no party person. I'm a Liberian.
Okay.
The only people that support WIA will know. We all used to support WIA. But all these things are going on, especially Mr. Coney, for you to be, it's I can understand when the young generation say things like that because of football love and all of that, but when I see older people like seeing the wrong going on in our country, especially the ones that are here with their family, and there's still support in there in Liberia. If Liberia is so good and everything is so gravy, why are you here with your family? Go there and live for the people there. You understand? What went on yesterday? No one can convince me to say they never knew about it. Why would these people never even went? So some people say all the time the protest was wrong. Do you have a special time to protest now? If they never even went to the pavilion where they were having a celebration, they went to the embassy. Where are these fools coming from going to the embassy to go kind of protest? Reading all this thing you're talking about education is right. Who are you to tell these students that go to the university that what they're saying are lies? How many of you in that group that goes to this university and all that? The police standing there, even when they got there later in the pickup, they were actually after the ones that are being stoned, and they were not doing anything to the one that were causing the trouble. If this is not disturbing the Liberian, I don't know what these people have to do for people to really speak their truth. Right. Okay, this is not the LACC thing too. What president, Mr. Cooley said, that you hold a legislature. I know that half of the House is sedition. I don't know about the Senate. The Senate, they got a bunch of Spanish United Parties there. I know that I signed everything that sedition won, but I know the House is mostly overrun by sedition, so I don't know which one of the legislators are controlled by opposition that he's talking about. And we are the one that sent that bill. Why would we? If nobody should hold, you can hold legislators responsible, but we are the one who sent that. So why would, if he's so, like the president is so serious for corruption, if he's so serious for corruption, what are you doing? Even sending a bill like that for people to the legislature, whatever they call them? Why would you even send a bill like that if you are so serious about it?
Thank you. But Mr. Just to make sure, Mr. Coonan did not support the the violence out against the students.
Lola, the sister was.
Talking about it and saying that they hold the president responsible for everything. He's
Lola, the sister, unfortunately, the sister.
LACC chairman go to the Supreme Court. What do you think he's going to get out of this? We are control Supreme Court. What do you think he's going to get out of it? Nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Then, unfortunately, Lola, the sister was not listening. And this is why you get when people are motivated. This is why you get when people are motivated by just mere partisan criticism. Nobody on this platform support the violence. I was the first one on this platform to condemn the violence and endorse the investigation. So I don't know where she's getting her information from. You know, to come on the public platform and criticize other people, you have to at least do a little bit due diligence to listen carefully to the show, to what people say. On the LACC Act, we were quoting even the chairman of the LACC, that the act that is being considered by the legislature is not what the president submitted. So where is she taking her talking points from? She's talking about the House of Representatives being controlled by CDC. The House of Representatives, my sister, has 73 members. The last time I checked, the membership of CDC representative in the House of Representatives were not quite 20. 20 is not a majority of 73.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Informed before you criticize.
Thank you. We have 7 minutes to the end of the program. Let me bring in the last caller here. That's Houston Brooks. Houston, you live.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Ja. And so I'll be quick. Thanks to Councilor Jawe and Mr. Kunin. I just want to speak on two things. I'm not too familiar with the new LACC law. So as a matter of fact, I learned that it has been signed into law. But I want to speak about the protest, what the violence scene we seen yesterday and the dog citizen law. I think what we need to do is, because that stuff was televised, is all over social media, we need to, allow the government, it's today just been a day after the incident. It's a very regretful incident. We should allow the government to, follow course and see what's going to happen. I want to say, I think people take on the people will go out and commit acts of violence in the name of the president. And how can you put that on President Weah? People are going to use his name to do things. And so let us be patient and let us see what happens from there.
Right.
My second concern...
But Houston, before you have the second concern, people will put it on President Weah because normally they don't see anything happening afterwards. So that's what it remains to be seen. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Yes, and that's a good point you brought up, Brother Ja. And so I mean, since this thing was, it was so widespread, let us be patient and not come too hard on the government for now and see what's going to follow suit.
Thank you.
The dog citizenship law. I mean, let's be honest. Perhaps a lot of people may not want to say this, but I'll be very honest with you, man. I tell you right now, I'm one of those Liberians in the United States of America that would not trade my American citizenship for a Liberian passport citizenship. I know the difference is the birthright that we have to Liberia, but it's an imperfect law. There are lots of negative things that can be said about it, but I think there is some good to come from it. So until we can make things perfect, it is what it is. I think the like Mr. Coleman mentioned, we need to really start holding our legislatures to foot. I mean, yeah, it's the imperial presidency, fine, but at the same time, the legislature as a body, and in this case, most of them are of the opposition, they need to stand up. These people they receive these bills from the president, they agreed on it, they pass it into law, perhaps because according to them, that's what the president wants. But no, the legislature as a body is completely responsible for almost all the issues that we are having in Liberia, but we don't really call these people out. Everything is President Weah this and President Weah that. So on this note, I say thanks to the panelists, thanks to you, Brother Ja. But I must admit, I am 100% with Mr. Cooney on this note. Let us start holding the legislature to the fire as much as we want to hold the president to the fire.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I enjoy the program. I respect everybody, and I will continue to listen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. All right, Mr. Cooney, Councillor Jewa, thank you so much also for coming. At this time, we'll take your closing comment. Let's begin with Mr. Cooney.
Well, I'm really at this time, I just want to say a big thank you to the President of the Republic, President Weah. I want to say a big thank you to the National Legislature. I want to say a big thank you to EULA, Eminent Emmanuel Wetty, and all of the organizations that came under the umbrella of the All-Liberian Conference on Dual Citizenship, whose effort contributed to the amendment of the Alien and Nationality Law. The law, in my view, is very reasonable. It's a very good bill. We can all talk about areas of improvement, but that's for another day. So I just want to tell everybody thank you for this bill. At least for once, Liberians will not be required to go to Liberian embassy again, maybe to go get visa to go to their own country. That psychological trauma has been removed. And the bill saved almost 99.99% of Liberians that live in the diaspora. So I just wanted to give that shout out. As we said, the issue of violence in our country, in the politics, should not be encouraged, should not be tolerated. I'm very much hopeful, and I very much desire that the Ministry of Justice will live up to the announcement that it made. The Liberian National Police will investigate the unfortunate incident that is being portrayed on the social media. Those who are culpable should be brought to justice, no matter where they're from, whether they're from government, whether they're not from government. We should not encourage violence in our political space. It's not healthy for our country. It's not healthy for our democracy. We have a big election coming, and we owe it to ourselves and to our country to behave in an orderly manner for us to make our democratic choice for leadership in the most peaceful, free, and fair manner. I want to say thank you to Councillor Jawa. He's always been an educator here when it comes to legal matters. It was a privilege appearing with you, Councillor, and I hope that you will continue to provide insight and an enlightenment in some of these legal issues, some of which we only have ordinary understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Few comments here before we close. Ora Gawe, you have Nitan from ANC. Does he ever vote no? Josh Count Senior, you guys are doing good. Continue to stand for the truth. Focus on Liberia. Martin Webman Brown, Mr. Cooney, CDC is in minority, but the influence of money has taken the opposition lawmakers. Virian Powerhouse, a long one here. Hi, Dennis. I hope I'm safe here to comment respectfully because Spoon TV, Witherspoon, is banning people from his show for speaking out respectfully against his bad English and double standard when it comes to speaking against corrupt practices. Witherspoon has a Ben Senvi sitting on his show that took $45,000 from the Liberian government and came to America. Witherspoon does not want to speak about it, but Witherspoon and Ben Senvi want to call out weird corrupt practices in government. It's not what we're talking here. Let's go to Hamilton Zilli. Unfortunately, most of the legislators' souls have been sold to the executive. They are a disappointment to the people they respect. Those are the comments. Councillor Jewa, your closing comments, sir.
Well, I want to go back to the Act, the Alien Nationality Law. It says that except for elected positions and appointed positions, no other question should be asked of whether you are a Japanese citizen, Guinean citizen, American citizen. So my advice to Liberians that may want that have seen the law, you can go ahead and purchase your passport. And maybe the other part of the law that could be contrary to the Constitution, that could be resolved politically by electing other people who may think otherwise. And so don't waste time. Go ahead and get your passport. I thought the portion that conflict with the Constitution is not. It doesn't appear to me to be appropriate to go to the Supreme Court right now because it doesn't look to me that you have a favorable judgment from the court and instead of throwing the law away, it would be important for people to go ahead and take advantage of those things that are in there. Elect people who will vote otherwise to change the process. The other thing I wish to stress is that in Africa, presidents are elected to serve the people. And people look up to the president for almost everything that is happening. President Weah should ensure that he can speak on law and order. If that doesn't happen, everything will go back at his doorstep. These things that are happening need to be corrected. The Minister of Justice need to be empowered to ensure that law and order becomes the issue of the day. And lastly, the LACC Act, if it is true that it has been signed into law as is, that's a real ground for challenge to before the Supreme Court. The question is whether the Supreme Court would follow the precedent that I already laid by ensuring that commissioners that are having tenure would not be removed from power. I think we should do things to be able to help our country. And to the young people, better to learn than to run around as militant and without getting anything at all. Because at the end of the day, it is you who going back to West Point. It is you going back to Slipway. You're going back to Sony and Red Light and those places. If your lives are not improved, you should always be used. If you improve your life in terms of going to getting education, it will be better for all of us. Let us remain mindful to support our country, the peace that we have right now. Let violence be out of the way. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. And I must also end by saying this, what I saw still makes my heart to bleed. As someone who was affected by the Liberian Civil War, when I see a scene like this, where a kid in college is being brutalized in this manner by people believed to be government loyalists, this is despicable, and the government should move swiftly to bring these hooligans, these evil people, to justice. I have changed my personal profile picture to that of the young comrade Christopher Walter Susuli Civilli to identify with him, and I will personally be making phone calls to see how he's doing and how I can personally help to make sure that such thing that is done to him, those who did that should be accountable and should be paid 100 times their devious and diabolical acts. And I want Mr. Cooney to say amen. I want to thank you, gentlemen.
Why, Mr. Cooney?
Yeah, because he's a law enforcement guy, so he doesn't like violence.
Amen.
I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank our viewers. Always keep it here at Focus on Liberia. Mr. Cooney is going to be back tomorrow, Thursday, for Tough Talking Thursday. You will see fireworks. This is where we discuss the issues, and there is no tabata that is considered. Until then, on behalf of all of us here at Focus on Liberia, I want to say thank you and have a good night as we close with our song that says, whether you are Mandingo, you are Loma, you are Kisi, you are Miracle Liberian or Congo, you are from the minority or the majority tribe, you are rich or poor, you are dual citizen or single citizen, we are all Liberians, and we must do whatever it takes to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Good night and God bless.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.